This is Pivot Perspectives with Chris O'Byrne, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they've learned on their road to success, and get exclusive access on how to implement their success into your life and business. Pivot Perspectives is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Chris O'Byrne.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash, and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Lily Robinson, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So you moved to the U.S. from Mexico when you were 16. How do you think that big transition affected the rest of your life?
Okay, so yes, I did move to the US when I was 16, but I guess that's one thing I didn't share in my book. I was already in the US when I was 5 years old. My parents moved when I believe I was 4 years old, and I was in Long Beach, California, from the age of 4 to the age of 6. My parents separated, and my mom decided to take us back to Mexico. I was in Mexico for about 10 years. And then at the age of 16, I came back to the US. I always loved being in the US. For me, that's how I feel. It's my home. I love Mexico, but I feel like the US was always, my home. I would always want to come back home. It was definitely a hard transition, because coming back from Mexico, I pretty much lost all my English. And so I had to come back and pretty much relearn everything. And in this case, I came back, with not much cushion, because my dad was not around. So I had to work hard. I remember having 2 jobs and having to go to school and pretty much relearn everything. Yes.
So did you get into real estate like out of high school? What was that transition like, getting into real estate?
It was, I guess I can say, it was beautiful the way I got into real estate. My original plan, never thought I would be in real estate. My plan was to be a psychologist. I love people. I love talking to people about their problems and being able to give them, a solution or give them hope. My plan was to be a psychologist, but because I was supporting myself, I'm always very analytical. So I'm always thinking about, how much money am I going to spend? How long am I going to be doing this? And how much money am I going to make? So I thought, okay, well, being a psychologist is going to be a rewarding career, but I'm not really going to make that much money. And it's going to be a very long road in order for me to finally get my degree and finally make money. So because I realized it would take so long and it would be so expensive, and I didn't want to take any student loans, I decided, well, what else can I do? What other passion do I have that I can do that can be a quick in and out and be able to make money right away? So I decided to I only went to college like 1 year, and that made me realize that, okay, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to get out. I'm going to be a fitness trainer. Fitness is another passion of mine. And I thought as a fitness trainer, it's a quick in and out, get my certificate and start training people and start making money. So that's what I did. But then around that time, I met my husband, and then he was visiting his aunt and uncle in Hawaii. And during that time, he was trying to move. I was living at that time, I was in Orange County. Um, and he was trying to move to Orange County to be there with me. That was in 2007. But he didn't find any job there. And I thought during that time we got serious. Then we decided to get married. And I thought, well, maybe I'll move to Hawaii. So in 2007, I moved to Hawaii. And during that time, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be a fitness trainer, right? So I started working for a little bit. But then 4 months after I got married, I got pregnant. And then I thought, I really don't see myself leaving my baby in order for me to go to work. So then from there, I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy a condo at a resort. Is Hawaii, right? Everybody wants to go to Hawaii. And so I've always been a visionary. Every time I think about a business, I I pretty much plan everything. And I thought if I'm going to have an Airbnb business, it has to be the best unit with the best ocean view, because that's what's going to bring people, right? So I did all of that, got my unit at a resort, beautiful resort in the island of Kauai. And I was scared because I had no clue about how to run an Airbnb, right? But then I thought I did all the math with how much money the managing companies charge, what they're gonna do, how much access am I going to have, and I realized that based on what they were saying to me, it didn't make any sense to me, financially speaking. I also wanted to be able to stay at my Airbnb anytime I wanted to be, and have access to the schedule and not have to pay so much money, right? What is the point to start a business if you're not going to make money, right? Just don't start it. Um,
Hmm.
so so then I thought, you know what? And my baby was, a few months old. And I thought, I'm going to do it. I've been a businesswoman pretty much since I was little, because, the story of my grandma and how she taught me how to be a businesswoman, I had it within me. And then I started the business. I started looking at, how people do it. I also had a friend who was also running an Airbnb. So I asked her questions. She was super sweet. She shared pretty much everything she did. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And right away, I started booking guests, and it was a very successful business. That's how I started in real estate. I know that was a long story, but
Oh, it's great.
that's how I started. And pretty much throughout all my pregnancies, I had 3 babies, and I still ran my business. And I was pretty much in charge of everything, all the finances, how to book the guests. My guests would come back. They would ask me for more, more units because they would come back with their families. And then I just kept investing in more real estate. And that's pretty much how I got into real estate. Then I thought, you know what? I already own real estate. Why not get my real estate license as well, so that I also know that part of real estate? And so that I can also, save on my commission and also create more deals. And that's how I got my real estate license. And I've been a realtor and also a real estate investor. Well, I should say real estate investor since 2011 and a realtor since 2018.
Okay.
Hmm.
Do you still have a lot of rental units?
I do. And that's actually my main focus.
Mm,
Being a realtor is great, but I got a taste of the best thing, right? Which is
mm.
owning real estate.
Yeah.
I think every realtor, to be honest, every realtor should own at least one property. Because if they are realtors and they don't own any real estate, they're wasting their time.
Yeah, not a very good example.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
So, I want to shift gears and start talking about your book, Rise Up and Heal. Share with me some of the events that led up to you writing that book.
Okay. So some of the events when I got married, I was only 23 years old, and I thought I knew everything. Right. That's how we feel. Um, I thought I knew everything. I mean, I was raised in a Catholic family, um, and they were very traditional. They really believed in you get married first. You don't live in together. You don't move in together. You first get to know the person, then get married, then have kids, kind of thing. And that's pretty much what I did. Um, Growing up, I can maybe go back to my childhood so that I can answer, I guess, the question of what led me to write my book. Um, Growing up as a child, right, when my parents separated, moving back to Mexico, even though, being a child, when children, are moved from one place to another, you probably feel like it's not affecting you, but it is. It's definitely marking your life. Um, so then moving back to Mexico, not having my dad with me, it definitely affected me. It made me feel like I didn't have enough support. Even though I did have the support, I had, an amazing grandmother, an amazing grandpa, family, and obviously my mother. Um, yes, I did have the support, but emotionally speaking, now that I am an adult, I did not have the support that I needed for me to be healthy, emotionally speaking. Um, and then my mother decides to live with. It's hard to say this, and maybe you can modify that. Her second cousin, and it's in my book. Um, I don't know how that happened. It's not my story to tell, but my uncle. So for me, my uncle became my father figure. He was an amazing man, an amazing support. For me, he was my father, and I still miss him. He was only with us for a few years. Unfortunately, he was killed tragically when I was 9 years old. So
Mm,
that was another trauma. That growing up, I felt lonely. I felt I felt like I had no control over the situations that were happening, right? And but I always had that love and passion for God. And I remember, being that little girl, 9 years old, being super excited because it actually happened around my birthday. And I was at my grandma's ranch waiting for the rest of the family to come so that we can celebrate my birthday. It was around July. My birthday, my mom's birthday, and my brother's birthday. Um, and I was super excited because I didn't see them for like maybe a few weeks. And so I was so excited waiting for everybody to come and so that I could see them and hug them and celebrate. And I only see two of my older brothers coming and saying, "We have to go home. Our father was killed." And until now, it's still difficult to say. Um, and So then that little girl is confused, right? Going from super excited to not knowing how that happened, and not knowing why it happened, right? Going from happy to sad. Um, and I think I was in shock when that happened, because now that I remember how my reaction was when I received the news, I remember I could not speak. I could not speak. I could not cry. Even when we were burying my dad, I'm going to say my dad, um, I still could not cry. And so I pretty much kept everything in, right? Just in my heart and in my mind, I was scared. I was confused, sad, not being able to fix it, right? I've always been that fixer. And I just couldn't fix that. I I couldn't go back and, fix that problem, or fix or bring my dad back. And once we came back home after the burial of my dad. I remember getting on my knees, even though I grew up Catholic, and I didn't have the closest relationship with God, right? I mean, 9 years old, right? Who's gonna understand, right? The connection and the power of God at that age. But I always had that connection with God. And I remember coming home and getting on my knees and asking God, would you please be my father? And now that I am older and I remember that prayer, I'm thinking, God has been an amazing father to me. It has, even though I went through so much, God still has been in my life, and it has turned everything that was meant to be for bad. He has turned everything for good. Um, and it has taught me so much. It has taught me about myself, right? And I think when we go through difficult trials in life, we have two choices, right? We either play the victim or we rise up, right? And we truly learn from that, and we rise up as healers, right? And to empower others, to empower ourselves, and to empower others. And so going back to my prayer, right, at 9 years old, not knowing if God was listening. And I remember just saying, okay, God, I don't have my dad with me. Would you please be my dad? Would you please take care of me? And it sounds super simple, right? And genuine. But now that I am older, and after everything that I went through, um, I can see God has been there all along, all along. And sometimes when we go through trials and we live life with trauma, right? In my case, that was like, it marked my life forever, losing my dad. And then growing up in a large family, my mother had 9 kids, and I am the fifth of them. And I didn't have the best relationship with my mom. My mom, she would play favoritism between my brothers and I. And I've always been a very sensitive person, very intuitive person, maybe an empath, I should say. And so I've always felt more than anybody else, I feel. And sometimes I really wanted to be closer to my mom, but sometimes she would make comments, um, almost like she didn't like me. And then she would prefer my sister. And then I had that kind of weird toxic relationship with my mother. And I just didn't know. I didn't know how to handle it. as a child, you want your mom, you want your parents to love you, and you try to please them, right? Because you think that that will make them happy. And if you please them, then, they'll be happy with you. And I became an enabler, and I became a people pleaser, also as a result of that. Um, and then, growing up, then I met my husband, and then I married a man that's very similar to my mother, where if I would bring up something and say, something that would feel confrontational, or just say, hey, maybe you did this to me or said this to me, then they would play the victim. And then I would feel gaslighted. And once I started working on my healing, I realized that the reason why, and this is also with all different kinds of relationships, right? I remember the majority, excuse me, the majority of my relationships were, kind of toxic, I would say, because they were there, but they were not fully there for me, emotionally speaking. And that is very similar to how my relationship with my mother was. Yes, she was there, but they were not there emotionally. Sometimes they would gaslight me. Sometimes they would manipulate me. Sometimes they would play the victim. And I was always there kind of saving them. Saving them, wanting to please everything, wanting to fix everything. And then I realized, why do I have these relationships, right? Until I learned how to heal myself, then I realized no wonder why I ended up falling into those toxic relationships, because I needed to heal my relationship with my mother, right? The trauma that I had with my mother. And then also I needed to heal the relationship that I didn't have with my father, right? It makes perfect sense. I kept looking in wanting to have a connection, in this case with my mother, also because I didn't have my father. And then as I got married also because I thought, oh, if I get married, my life is going to be better because I won't feel lonely. Yeah. Right? Because I felt lonely growing up not having my father. And then I get married and I still feel lonely. And I still feel like I have to fix somebody. And then I still feel like I have to fix his problems. And until I got to the point where I actually fell into depression and anxiety because I tried to fix everything. So he also had emotional childhood traumas, and as both getting married, bringing in both, our traumas, it was definitely a difficult marriage. And it led me to operate in this masculine energy because I had to come forward to help him. He had childhood trauma as well. And so it was always me wanting to fix things, right? It was always me uplifting and encouraging and trying to fix the problem and try to keep things somewhat normal. When in reality, and that's when I realized that's what led me to write my book, when I did my deep healing. And I realized I've been taking on responsibilities that don't belong to me, right? By trying to fix the problems, in this case with the relationship I had with my mother, then, growing up without a father, then getting married and then having to fix his problems instead of allowing him to fix his own problems. And once I did my healing, I realized I'm letting go. I'm letting go of the responsibilities that don't belong to me. I'm letting go of things that don't feel good in my gut. Because when we carry so much weight and when we carry so much stress, yes, we can pretend that everything is good. We can pretend that everything is perfect. We can give a smiley face. But deep inside, if we're not in alignment, our bodies get sick, right? So whatever energy we have in our bodies trapped, if we don't release that energy, it gets us sick. In my case, my body showed me that I was sick by having anxiety and depression. And I kept it in for years. I kept it in. Oh, no, I'm healthy. I'm not taking any medication. I'm good. And of course, I love fitness, right? Fitness and eating healthy. And I thought, I'm going to brush it off. I'm going to work out more. I'm going to eat more healthy. I'm going to prioritize my sleep, which is great. But emotionally speaking, if we don't take care of our issues, we're still not going to be healthy. And so in 2020, that was my breaking point. I tried so hard to keep everything together. And then I realized I am done. I am going to rebuild myself. I am going to let go of any responsibility that doesn't belong to me. It is not my job to fix anybody. If they want to get themselves fixed, they are going to do it on their own. They're going to fix their issues on their own. And if they're willing to be healed, they're going to start their healing process on their own, just the way I'm starting my own healing process. So I started writing. 2020 was the year. I started writing. I started sharing my story. It was not easy. There is, several things that I share in my book. And then also I even share about sexual molestation, harassment, all of that can also create trauma. And many women, even men, including men, when they go through that and they don't share, right? The majority of people don't share because they feel shame and they don't even know how to start. And I realized if I'm going to heal, I'm going to share everything that has happened to me, because we cannot heal what we don't talk about, right? Anything you keep in the dark, it will be there and it would come out no matter what, right? In this case, in an illness. And I realized I'm going to speak up. I'm going to rise up and heal. And I'm going to be a voice for those who are not ready to speak up. If I can share my stories of pain and suffering, and then empowerment and healing, if I can give that example so that other people can say, wow, if Lily did it, I can do it too. I feel like whatever I went through in my life and in my journey is so that I can be here, so that I can share my stories, so that I can bring hope to others.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus? What I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. and download the book for absolutely free.
And if that's the purpose that God created me for, I embrace it. And I want to be that light to others, and I want to be able to bring hope and healing. And I also want to make sure that I say this: healing is personal, right? I can share my stories and say, you can do it, and encourage you and everything, but I can't heal you. You have to do it on your own. You have to heal yourself. You have to start the process. And it's not an easy process. It is not. Yeah, there are moments where you're going to sit down and cry, and you're going to sit down and feel like you're never going to get out of it, right? But you keep pushing. You keep pushing forward, and you will get there. Any questions or anything, ask people, pray, meditate. That's how I did it. To me, that's what brought me peace. As I sat down and prayed, and I even fasted as well. Pray and meditated. That was for me, it was what really gave me the wisdom to take action on the areas that I needed to take care of.
So, what was involved in your healing process? You talked about prayer, fasting, meditation.
I also had to, obviously, I had to say what hurt me, right? I had to stand up and speak up and say, in this case, in my marriage, and say, I'm done. I'm letting it go. I'm letting go. I am going to take care of myself. You take care of yourself. And if you are healthy, we can still be together. But it is your job to heal yourself. I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to heal myself. Because my heart and my soul was urging me to do it. I couldn't live the life that I was living. I couldn't live with pain. I am a person that I'm not a person that can fake things, right? I just can't. I'm not going to live a life that is going to pretend to be okay. I'm not. I'm always very raw and honest with myself. And if I'm not happy about something, I'm going to do something about it. So I had to be honest with myself. That's, I guess, number one, right? Becoming aware. Actually, I should say that's number one. Becoming aware, number one. Becoming aware, and then taking action, and being honest and raw with yourself, and really speaking and just saying, because there is power in our words, right? If we don't say anything, we can't fix anything, right? We can't. When you speak, then your brain is able to hear, and you're able to ask more questions. And when you ask questions and when you're speaking, you're able to find the answers, right? And so for me, I remember having my moments of prayer and meditation, many moments of crying. And there is healing. There is healing in crying. That's one thing that for me, excuse me, for me, I was afraid of showing that I was weak, right? Because we see crying, we connect crying with weakness, right? And nobody wants to cry, according to our society, right? We don't want to cry. We don't want to show that we're hurting. We don't want to show that we're in pain. No, because it's not acceptable according to our society. And, especially for me, the way I grew up, I was always very strong. It's like even my family nowadays, they still like, oh yeah, Lily is a very strong woman. Nothing's wrong with her. She's always perfect, right? But I'm thinking, no. We all have something that's wrong. We're not perfect people. Um, but the things that I did that helped me in my healing journey and to be where I'm at right now is the fact that I, number one, became aware of the things that I needed to take care of. And then I also did all my healing, my meditation. There were also days where sometimes I had to cancel, meeting with a client or any event that I needed to do. I would just cancel it and just sit in my backyard, connect with nature and cry. If I needed to cry, I cried. Um, I also needed to heal not having my biological dad with me. That was also another part because I had so many questions for him. And he also passed away. He passed away when I was 18. And during that time, I really wanted to talk to him and to let him know that I forgave him. But then he died also in an accident. And I just didn't get a chance to talk to him. And what I did during my healing process was I wrote things down and I wrote everything I wanted to say to him. And I just, picture him being in front of me and share that with him. And just the fact, like just hearing the word, I forgive you, that's also very healing for you. So that's how I did it. I had to pretty much clean up my house. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
Yes, in order for me to get to the healing point was, okay, what am I doing? What are the areas in my heart and my soul that I need to address so that I can start my healing journey? Prayer, meditation, talking about what hurt you. That's huge. I also share an exercise in my book, which is looking at yourself in front of the mirror. The title is Do the Mirror Work, meaning some people can't see themselves in the mirror, right? And I share this with my husband too, because in his case, he could not see himself in front of the mirror. He was not taught to do that. And it's so sad, right? It's so sad. Like like for me, for example, with my children, I teach them confidence. I teach them love, self-love, and nurturing. And I tell them, whenever you feel doubt, whenever you feel insecure about something, go in the bathroom, look at yourself in the mirror, and ask yourself the questions: why are you insecure, right? Or why am I insecure? What am I feeling? Why do I feel scared? And then also say positive words. You're amazing, you're great, you're going to do great, right? But when you see yourself in front of the mirror, there is something that happens to you that gives you confidence to really get to know yourself and to empower yourself. So I did that. I did all of that work, like I said, prayer, meditation, talking about my problems, talking about the things that hurt me, that would still cause me to be frustrated even when I talk about it.
But you have a lot of powerful stories in your book. Can you share one that you just feel is exceptionally powerful?
I would say, actually, what this story means so much to me because I feel like that was the foundation of who I am as a woman and also as a businesswoman, is the story of my grandmother. She was an amazing businesswoman with so much wisdom. And growing up, I remember some of the business that she had, because she had several businesses. her story is extremely uplifting. She grew up without a mom. Her mother died. I believe she died due to giving birth to her sister. Um, and I believe she was 8 years old, and she struggled a lot. She basically had to learn everything on her own. Um, and the stories that I see growing up, and that's one of the things that I am thankful for. Sometimes when we go through trials and we're angry and we're frustrated and we don't know why we're going through that, right? But then you look back and you say, wow, I'm glad that happened. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be who I am now, right? In my case, I am thankful now. Before, I was not happy that my mother ended up taking us back to Mexico. But I am thankful now that I got the opportunity to live in Mexico and to see my grandmother and to see how she ran her business and to see how she was. She was an amazing woman. Yes, she grew up without a mother, and it was not an easy childhood. She had to learn everything. But the way I remember my grandmother was that she was a woman that she did everything. She knew how to make a dress. I remember she would sew, like, old school. She would sew the dress and she would measure everything from start to finish. And she made a few dresses for my sisters. She pretty much made her own clothes. She also had a pastry business, and she would have all her grandkids, work on the dough to get it ready. And then this is what she would do, which I think is genius. She would send all her grandkids with a bucket of pastries to the neighbors to sell it. And then every time we would come back and sold all the bread or the pastries, she would give us some money. Talk about business, right?
Oh yeah, you learned.
So that, for me, that was the foundation, of how to run a business. And I think that's amazing, the way she did everything. So she would do that. And then I also share in my book, which is funny. But during that time, it was illegal to have a cannabis business. Well, she did it. She had a business. And I remember, like seeing her run the business and doing I mean, she was an amazing woman. She did everything. Talk about,
Wow.
yes, like from the seed to the plant to negotiating
Wow.
to all of that stuff. And she was an honorable woman. She was a very respected woman in town. And it was really, and that's who I am as well. When I give you my word, I stick with it. Even if sometimes it doesn't work out well for me, if I gave you my word, that's my word, and I'm going to stick with it. And that's how my grandma was. She was a woman of honor and respect. And the way she did business with people, I mean, that's a tough business, right? A cannabis business. You deal with a lot of crazy people. But she did everything in such a way that was very honorable and with grace. Yes. And I mean, that for me, that's something that I admire, and I feel so proud to be a part of such an amazing, story, and also be a granddaughter of such an amazing woman.
It's a Big lessons.
Yes. She also had a cattle business. And it was a meat cattle. So
Oh, yeah.
so she would go and sell it. And I think is just amazing the way she was a businesswoman. She was a saleswoman. And but I remember, so all of that was so wonderful, right? And I also see, now that I am aware of how to heal your childhood traumas, right, and relationship traumas, I see that she operated in the masculine energy, right?
Mhm.
Because she didn't have the support of her father. The mother was not around. So she had to take care of herself on her own. And she had to provide for herself. And so because of that, she ended up having so many businesses, which is great. But then also on the emotional side, she struggled a lot. She was under extreme stress. And then she married my grandpa, and my grandpa was a very relaxed guy. He was just a go happy, go lucky kind of guy. And now that I see, the difference between those two personalities, I see a big problem with that, because the fact that he didn't provide enough so that she could sit back and relax, right? It was very dysfunctional. And now going back to how sometimes we do things, right? We operate, how do I say? We operate also based on how we were raised. And we do things without even knowing, right? In my case, I ended up falling in also, in a relationship similar to my grandma and my dad. And my grandpa, because I took on how my grandma was, right? She was a go-getter. She was a businesswoman. She would always get everything done. If my grandpa didn't make enough money to pay the bills, she would come up with, all the money so that she could finish paying the bills or whatever she needed to do. That was how my relationship was. I had to come up with, okay, if we can't pay the bills right now, I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to pay this. I have to do that. And then I realized I am living similar to how my grandma was. And this has to stop because it's not healthy.
Mm.
And what made me start the healing journey was because my grandmother passed away and she had cancer. And part of me, I thought, if I don't fix my issues or the things that I'm going through, I'm going to end up in the same situation as my grandma. Because I've been living, with high stress, trying to create, trying to come up with, more money so that I can pay the bills. And I actually had a revelation. I don't know if you got a chance to read that part, where I remember, and that's also in 2020 where I had my breaking point. And I remember getting in my closet and did not come out of my closet for a whole day. And I thought something has to happen and something has to change, because I am not happy with the way things are in my life. And I remember having a revelation with, I don't know what it was, but I know that brought me healing, because I remember, excuse me, I remember hearing the voice of my grandmother and my uncle, my father figure, and they were both telling me that I needed to let go of responsibilities that didn't belong to me. And they also showed me, in my spirit, they showed me that I was falling into the same footsteps as my grandmother. And that if I didn't fix those problems, I was going to end up also with cancer, like my grandma did. And that I needed to heal myself, and I needed to heal my soul and my spirit so that I could live a healthy life. And I remember coming out of my closet and coming down and saying, you know what? You're going to take responsibility for your own actions. I'm going to take responsibility for me only, and I'm not going to take any responsibilities that do not belong to me. And I remember saying, I have no idea why I'm saying this, but I feel like I have to do it because I remember hearing my grandma and my uncle and my grandpa telling me all of that. And that was the start of my healing journey. I went hard on my healing journey because I felt like I had to heal myself in order for my past generations to heal, and then also in return for my future generations to heal.
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, thank you for coming on today. I will make sure that everybody knows and has a link to your book, Rise Up and Heal, on Amazon. Is there anywhere else you would like to send people to learn more about you and what you do or your book?
Yes, they can also find me on Instagram, YouTube. I actually need to work on my YouTube channel. I haven't had a chance to do that. Yes.
So great. I'll make sure everybody gets all of those and then they can learn more, and especially to get the book
Yes.
because I think that's going to help a lot of people. Thank
Yes.
you again for coming on
Yes,
today.
you're very welcome. And thank you also for having me.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thanks for listening to Pivot Perspectives with your host, Chris O'Byrne. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advice on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear